Are you both going to speak, Des, or are you both going to speak? Yes. Okay. Are you going to lead off? Yep. Okay, whenever you're ready, Des.
Councillor Perry, I would like to thank the committee for agreeing to hear a deputation. This time, the purpose of the deputation is to comment on the coalition motion, which is entitled Reducing Child Poverty and Hunger, and is item 8.1. We welcome the motion. We welcome this sign of progress. It's an issue that we're very concerned about, and we hope to be involved in the process as it develops towards production of this report next year. A deputation consists of myself, Des Lockley, as Secretary of Edinburgh TUC, and Tom Britton, who's the President of Edinburgh EIS. We'll each make a contribution of 5 minutes. We'll be pleased to try and answer any questions that the committee might have. The main purpose of my contribution is to comment on the last sentence of the motion, which reads, to request that this report also includes information on the feasibility of the Council doing more to tackle holiday hunger, either alone or via increased partnership in this area. I'm not going to repeat what I said in August on the last deputation. Instead, I'm going to refer to a new paper which I read, which was published by the Scottish Government and reads Tackling Child Poverty Delivery Plan, Forecasting Child Poverty in Scotland. It was published on the 29th of March 2018. The paper has projections for the level of child poverty in Scotland up to the year 2030. It does not refer directly to Edinburgh, but the implications of their forecasts apply to Edinburgh. The implications are possibly worse for Edinburgh because the paper does not consider how housing costs affect its projections. There are 4 groups that are at most risk to increasing child poverty. The first is families with no adults in paid work. These are not necessarily families with unemployed adults, but families with disabled adults who are incapable of work. The impact of universal credit means that they are losing up to £6,000 per year in income. The child poverty rate for this group was about 55% in 2015-2016. It will be about 80% in 2019-2020, and it will increase to over 90% by 2029-2030. The second group at risk is working families with 1 or 2 part-time workers. The child poverty rate for this group was under 40% in 2015-2016, will be just under 50% in 2019-2020, and will be nearly 60% in 2029-2030. The third group at risk is working families with 1 parent working full-time and the other not working. The child poverty rate was about 30% in 2015-16, will just be over 30% in 2019-20, but it will increase to 50% by 2029-2030. Within all the above groups, there is a category that will be badly hit, and these are families with 3 or more children. The main driver for these increased rates of child poverty is the UK Government's cuts in social security benefits. The actions of the Scottish Government, according to the report we've read, to date in the field of taxes and its limited ability to provide social security payments does not really affect the trends I have described. That's excluding the Scottish child benefits, and that's something that I think some work needs to be done on how that will affect things. The Child Poverty Action Group Scotland suggests in a current press statement that the current figure of 23,000 children in poverty in Edinburgh will be up to 24,000 in 2023-24 and up to 26,000 by 2030. Given the trend of rising child poverty, both in terms of percentages and actual numbers, we hope that the report can suggest a plan with increased Scottish Government support that can stop the rise in child poverty in Edinburgh. I think the report should also inform the public of the sort of measures that are necessary to reverse that trend in Edinburgh at least. We also hope the report can comment on the additional resources that are necessary for schools and the health service to deal with the consequences of poverty. By consequence we mean poor nutrition, poor educational attainment, and dealing with mental health conditions arising in children and parents. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. Tom Britton, Edinburgh EIS. For a young person, being able to access regular quality nutritious food is fundamentally important. The opposite of this is food insecurity. In a piece I found on the Optimist blog by Elizabeth Holmes, she looks at how food insecurity could impact on a young person. She writes, "Hunger and malnutrition affect a child's ability to concentrate, to take in and retain new information, and to make progress in their learning. But that's no surprise. Calories provide energy. Without energy, how can children thrive in their learning? How can they make the most of the opportunities in front of them? Hunger is not just biological. There is an immense psychological impact too. Hunger impacts sleep, and tired children are obviously not functioning at their best. Brain development is impeded, and worsening mental health may result. Children may become withdrawn, depressed, angry, and detached from life. They are less able to cope with the challenges of each day, are more likely to struggle emotionally. Food insecurity is devastating. Our members in the city continue to see painful and heartbreaking examples of families struggling with poverty. We see members from across the city reporting increased incidences of pupils coming to school hungry. We have stories of pupils arriving at school unsettled, unable to focus, unable to listen and to take part in learning activities. Stories of pupils in primary and secondary not having breakfast. Secondary pupils not having lunch, and when they're asked about it, saying they weren't hungry that day. In my own teaching practice, I had a pupil who was so hungry in the morning that he would try and steal food from others. He would also eat so quickly in order that no one would be able to take the food off of him. With his hunger would come challenging behaviour. He needed food, and until he got it, he could not cope with anything else. His hunger would continue through the school day. Snack would be a challenge because he would want to eat all of it. Lunch would be the same. This pattern started to change when we started giving him cereal in the morning. It took a while, but giving him daily regular food started to change how he functioned and responded in class. He was able to concentrate better. His general participation improved, as did his behaviour, although I have to say it took months to get him to this stage. The other aspect of poverty hunger that I have come across in my career is a change in behaviour of pupils who know that holidays are coming. There are clearly a number of factors involved here. It's not just a lack of food, regular meals. However, based on what our members are saying, this is something that's clearly rising. It's also about leaving a space that is predictable, safe with regular patterns, to go somewhere where there might not be any of these things. I have taught pupils whose behaviour changes in the last week of term as we get closer to the holidays. As most of their classmates look forward to the holidays, these pupils would struggle with the emotional impact of not being in school. Hunger clearly plays a part in this. In supporting this motion before you, we would ask that consideration be given for long-term running and funding of these proposed provisions. If we're serious about wanting to address the impact of poverty on our young people, we need something that's going to be sustained in the long term and not restricted to 2 or 3 years at most. This would impact on the health and well-being of families in poverty as well. Edinburgh EIS welcomes the call for more to be done to support families living in poverty in the city. We want to see increased provision for supporting families in need out with school term times. As well as providing food during the holidays, we believe that help is also needed in order to create opportunities for families to flourish and grow. We would encourage support services to be involved in these places to help create resilience and self-belief in families. This is something that will ultimately benefit all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on that? That's precise and to the point. Any questions? Okay, in that case, thanks very much, gentlemen. If you want to retire back to the gallery, we'll be dealing with the motion in third place. Can I suggest we have a quick comfort break? Because this is going to be a long afternoon, so if we have a break now, we'll manage to work through the rest of the officers. So can I suggest 5 minutes?
Thank you for taking the time to listen to my motion today, and also for the deputation that came along. I have to say I don't attend this committee often, but it's really good to see issues of equality and poverty right at the heart of the whole of the discussion this morning, which has been, I've learned a lot from the discussion about what happens in our city. So this motion really builds on the previous deputation from Edinburgh TUC, and I guess they've then come along today to support this motion. So there's kind of a circle there. I think Tom, who's now left, his testimony, I think, really sums up what I'm trying to address here. So my church a couple of weeks ago, we had our Harvest Festival, and my minister pointed out that, what we all know is that families living, near to that church, they look forward to the October holidays with a little bit of stress, and they do struggle to put food on the table every day. And that's just the 1 week October holiday. And that's the same story in Easter time and also summertime. I'm due to meet the minister from St John's Church in Cllr this afternoon. I'm running a little bit late because of the positive discussions we've had this morning, but I expect he'll be wanting to talk about exactly the same thing. There's a link to Brexit here, but it's not too tenuous a one. I think we read a lot in the newspapers about how people are stockpiling foods and all sorts of other things for Brexit. But the reality is, for a long time, many households in the city and elsewhere have been doing exactly the same in the build-up for holidays. And I know as I was a child growing up in Kirkcaldy in the 70s and 80s, that was very much what you've seen my father doing in the build-up to the summer holidays in particular. But I think the issue we face as a city and as a country as well is that poverty is growing after some years of it being in decline. And I think that's something that should shame us all, really. And it's basically endemic in some parts of our city, and you don't have to go looking for it either, which, again, should shame us. I think we can talk about responsibility, but I think governments at all levels have a responsibility to do more. So UK government, Scottish government, and I guess the council, and that's why I'm here today. I think lots of fantastic work is ongoing in the city. Councillor Day's got his Poverty Commission, which he's really passionate about. And I was speaking to Councillor Dickey about this morning before the meeting got underway. And I think she shares my view that it's really important we plan for this, but I think we need just to move on and take some action to address this problem. The Discover programme, which is very targeted, which the council runs, the Discover programme in Oxgangs Primary School in my ward 2 summers ago. I went along to that, and whilst it did just help a very small number of children, it remains one of the most positive things I've seen as a councillor in the 2.5 years I've been in office, if I can use that phrase, although I'm not in office much here. I think I found it really uplifting, and I could see the difference it was making to individual children and families as well, and I think that is really important. But when I spoke about that to the communities I represent, quite a lot of parents in the areas of deprivation in my ward said, why didn't they know about this? How can their children take part in such a thing? And I think that's the problem we have with the Discover. Although it's fantastic, it's very targeted by nature, and I do think there's a need for something that caters for more of the families or all of the families which really do struggle over these holiday breaks. So that's really just what this motion is about. I think there's a feeling, justified or otherwise, that perhaps other local authorities in Scotland are doing more on this. I think in particular North Lanarkshire's already got a commitment to ensure children have nutritious meals 365 days per year. So this motion really just asks us to reflect on what we're doing as well, and I think there's what we're doing is good, and I think there's lots there to reflect on, but also look to see what other councils are doing in Scotland, and also understand what more we could do and look at the costs and benefits of that. My only concern is I'd really hoped that after the last Edinburgh TUC deputation is that this work could be done in time for the current budget round, but I accept, particularly after the discussions we've had this morning, that staff are quite heavily loaded in this area, so I think we'll have to wait until next year for that to happen. So I'm happy to move this motion.
Alison?
Yeah, I'm very happy to second this motion. I get asked often every time I speak about poverty, and that's often, just even last week at a meeting, and I keep getting asked, isn't it just relative? And it's, to me, it's pretty shocking, the lack of understanding that is around about poverty. And part of what's going through our schools, the 1 in 5 poverty proofing, is actually about helping people get a better understanding of, you know, looking through everything with the poverty proofing eyes and making decisions around that, how to do school. We're just talking even yesterday to do with foreign travel, just with Andy Gray yesterday. I was saying even my children growing up, we were excluded from that because you couldn't afford it. Just, you know, that's a big thing. Even a simple thing is something. So even just listening to the parents here this morning and listening to the challenges that they face, from health to all sorts of access of opportunity. So there's lots of good work going on around income maximisation, everything. We've got the first child poverty plan that was submitted to the Scottish Government. What I would actually caveat here is, don't let bureaucracy and structures get in the way. So at the moment we've got Edinburgh Poverty Commission and the Child Poverty Action Unit kind of working together. And I'm concerned that structures and bureaucracy is going to get in the way of action. So I would say we already have a list of actions that we just need to move forward with, and holiday hunger being absolutely one of them. But I would finish by saying, what we don't do enough of, and we're getting better at, but we're not doing enough of, is get the lived experience right at the very heart. Those young people, child poverty, driving it, telling you what works, and if that and telling us that that's what they need right now. That's hugely important, the way forward. But can we just get on with the action? Is all I would say, and second that.
Very much. Any comments? Any amendments? Any disagreements? So in that case, can we agree the motion? Thank you very much.